My daughter didn't just take my house. She took the very last piece of who I thought I was. And still, I forgave her. Because what God gave me afterward was something no one could ever steal again. Subscribe to hear the stories no one dares to tell. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been betrayed by the one you loved the most? Before I tell you how I lost everything, my home, my dog, even my self-worth, I want you to know one thing. I was not a fool. I was a mother. And like many mothers, I gave more than I should have, and paid a price I never imagined. But it was in my darkest valley that I saw God's brightest light. At 68, I thought I had found peace. My little 3-bedroom house in suburban Ohio was my sanctuary. The rose garden I'd tended for 20 years bloomed every spring like clockwork. My golden retriever Buddy would chase squirrels in the backyard while I sipped my morning coffee on the porch swing my late husband had built with his own hands. That's when Rachel called. "Mom, I need to come home." Her voice was shaking through the phone. "David left me. He took everything, Mom. I have nowhere else to go." What mother could say no to that? Rachel was my only child, my baby girl. At 35, she was starting over, and I opened my arms and my home without hesitation. "Of course, sweetheart. Come home." Within a week, Rachel had moved into my master bedroom. I didn't mind sleeping in the guest room. After all, she needed the space more than I did. Her boxes filled my living room. Her drama filled my quiet mornings. "Mom, this house is so outdated," she'd say, running her finger along my grandmother's china cabinet. "We could really modernize this place." "We?" I thought. But I smiled and nodded. She was hurting. She needed time to heal. But healing, I learned, can sometimes look a lot like taking control. "You know, Mom," Rachel said one evening as we watched television, Buddy curled between us on the couch, "you're getting older. What if something happens to you? What if you fall and I'm not here? Maybe we should put the house in both our names, for security." The word security echoed in my mind. I was 68, not 98. But Rachel painted pictures of emergency rooms and nursing homes, of me helpless and alone. "Just think about it, Mom. It would give us both peace of mind." 3 months later, I signed the papers. The house that had been mine for 30 years now belonged to both of us. Rachel squeezed my hand as we left the lawyer's office. "Now we're really a team, Mom." But teams, I discovered, can have very unequal players. It started small. Rachel rearranged my kitchen because the flow was all wrong. She threw away my favorite coffee mug because it was chipped and embarrassing. When I protested, she'd sigh dramatically. "Mom, I'm trying to help you live better. Why are you fighting me on everything?" Then came the rules. Buddy wasn't allowed on the furniture anymore. "He sheds everywhere, Mom. It's unsanitary." My morning coffee on the porch was too early and disturbing the neighbors. My weekly bridge club meetings were bringing too much noise to the house. "Mom, you need to understand. This is my home too now. We both have to compromise." But I was the only one compromising. The breaking point came when I found Rachel on the phone with a realtor. "Yes, it's a 3-bedroom ranch, prime location. My mother and I are thinking of downsizing." "Rachel," I interrupted, "what are you doing?" She covered the phone. "Mom, calm down. I'm just exploring our options. This house is too big for us. We could sell it, split the money, and both get nice little apartments." "This is my home." "No, Mom," she said, her voice suddenly cold. "This is our home, and I think it's time we made some practical decisions." That night, I lay awake in what used to be my guest room, listening to Buddy whimper at the door. Rachel had locked him in the laundry room. "He's getting old, Mom. Maybe it's time to consider other options for him, too." The explosion came on a Tuesday morning in October. I'd gotten up early to let Buddy out and make my coffee. Old habits die hard. Rachel stormed into the kitchen in her robe, her face twisted with rage. "I specifically told you not to let that dog out before 7. The neighbors are complaining." "Rachel, he's an old dog. He can't hold it all night. Everything is always about what you want, isn't it?" She was screaming now. "You never consider anyone else. You're selfish and stubborn and impossible to live with." Something inside me snapped. "This was my house, Rachel. My life. I gave you everything, and you've turned it into a prison." "Your house?" She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Mom, your name isn't even on the deed anymore. I had it transferred completely to me last month. This is my house now, and I think it's time you found somewhere else to live." The world tilted. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the power of attorney you signed, Mom. I'm talking about protecting both of us from your increasingly erratic behavior." I never signed a power of attorney, but in that moment, with Rachel's face twisted in anger and my own hands shaking, I couldn't remember what I had signed. The papers had been so thick, so confusing. When I didn't move, she pulled out her phone. 911? Yes, I need help. My elderly mother is having some kind of episode. She's being aggressive and threatening. I think she might be dangerous. Rachel, no. 20 minutes later, I was standing on the sidewalk with a single suitcase, watching my daughter pet Buddy through the window, while 2 police officers assured me this was just a temporary cooling-off period. "The lady from social services will help you find a place to stay," one of them said kindly. "Sometimes families just need a little space." Space. I had all the space in the world now, and none of it was home. The Sunrise Senior Center wasn't the worst place I could have ended up. Clean beds, 3 meals a day, and a television room where you could pretend to watch game shows while your heart slowly broke into smaller and smaller pieces. But dignity, I learned, doesn't come with the room. "You got kicked out by your own kid?" Mrs. Henderson asked me the first night, her voice loud enough for the entire dormitory to hear. "What did you do to make her hate you that much?" What had I done? The question haunted my sleepless nights. Had I been too demanding? Too set in my ways? Had I failed Rachel so completely as a mother that this was what she truly thought of me? I'd brought my Bible, one of the few things I'd managed to grab. Every night, I'd open it and search for answers, for comfort, for some sign that God hadn't forgotten about me entirely. "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted," I'd whisper from Psalms. But the room felt empty. My prayers felt hollow. Where was God when I signed those papers? Where was He when my daughter looked me in the eye and called the police? Where was He when I had to explain to strangers why my own child didn't want me? I'd cry into my thin pillow, trying to be quiet so the other women wouldn't hear. But grief, I learned, is louder than we think. 3 weeks in, Mrs. Patterson from the next bed whispered in the dark, "Honey, we can all hear you." And honey, we've all been there. But had they? Had any of them lost everything to the person they loved most in the world? Marlene Johnson was 73 years old and had been homeless twice, widowed once, and abandoned by her family more times than she could count. She was also the happiest person I'd ever met. "Sugar," she said to me one morning as I sat alone at breakfast, staring at scrambled eggs I couldn't taste. "You look like somebody stole your sunshine and sold it for scrap." I tried to smile. "Just having a hard time, I guess." "Hard times don't make hard people, baby girl. Hard times make strong people. But first, they make broken people. And broken people need fixing." She slid into the seat across from me. "You coming to prayer circle tonight?" I hadn't been to church since before Rachel moved in. "I'm not really feeling very faithful these days." "That's exactly when you need faith most. 7 o'clock in the activities room. I'll save you a seat." That night, 6 women sat in a circle of folding chairs, holding hands and sharing their stories. Margaret had been evicted when her son gambled away her rent money. Susan's daughter had stolen her Social Security checks. Patricia hadn't spoken to her children in 5 years after they'd tried to have her declared incompetent. "The devil works through the people closest to us," Marlene said. because those are the ones who can hurt us most. But God works through broken hearts, because those are the ones most open to His love. When it was my turn to share, the words poured out like water from a broken dam. I told them about Rachel, about the house, about Buddy, about lying awake wondering what kind of mother raises a child who could do such things. They didn't judge. They didn't offer solutions. They just listened and nodded, and when I was done, they prayed for me like I was their own daughter. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. The Riverside Community Church needed someone to organize their library. It wasn't much, just a few hours a week, sorting donated books and helping people find what they needed. But it was purpose. It was somewhere to be needed. Pastor Williams was a gentle man in his 50s who'd lost his own mother to dementia the year before. Sometimes, he told me, as he showed me the small room filled with boxes of books, God takes us away from what we think we want so He can give us what we actually need. The work was quiet and peaceful. I cataloged children's books and cookbooks, romance novels and devotionals. People would stop by to chat, to ask for book recommendations, to tell me about their own struggles. Mrs. Chen was going through a divorce. Mr. Rodriguez was caring for his father with Alzheimer's. Young Amy was a single mother working 3 jobs. Everyone had a story. Everyone was fighting battles I knew nothing about. And slowly, I began to see that my story wasn't unique. It was heartbreaking, yes, but it wasn't rare. After 3 months, Pastor Williams offered me a small apartment above the church office. "It's not much," he said apologetically. "Just 1 room and a kitchenette, but it's private and it's yours for as long as you need it." I cried when I signed the lease, not from sadness, but from relief. I had a home again, small, simple, but mine. The next week, I went to the animal shelter. "I'm looking for an older dog," I told the volunteer, "one that maybe others have passed by." She led me to the back kennels, where the dogs who'd been there longest waited quietly in their cages. That's where I found him, a graying shepherd mix with cloudy eyes and a limp in his back leg. "That's Charlie," the volunteer said sadly. "He's been here 8 months. He's 12 years old, so most people want puppies." Charlie looked at me through the bars with the same expression Buddy used to have, patient, hopeful, knowing that love could come from the most unexpected places. "I'll take him." That night, Charlie curled up on a blanket beside my bed in our tiny apartment, and I felt wealthy beyond measure. The letter arrived on a Thursday morning, 2 years after I'd left the shelter. My name was written in Rachel's familiar handwriting, but the letters were shaky, uncertain. I held it for 3 days before I found the courage to open it. "Mom, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if I deserve for you to read this. I've written this letter 100 times and thrown it away, but the doctor says I don't have time to keep waiting for courage. I need to tell you the truth about what happened, about why I did what I did. David didn't just leave me when I called you that day. He left me because I found out about his gambling debts. He owed dangerous people dangerous amounts of money. When I threatened to divorce him, he said he'd kill himself and make sure everyone knew it was my fault. I was scared, Mom, scared and stupid and desperate. When he suggested I move back home with you, I thought it would be temporary, just until I could figure out what to do. But then he started calling, demanding money, threatening to hurt you if I didn't help him get it. He said your house was worth enough to pay his debts and that you were old anyway, that you'd be better off in a home. I should have told you. I should have asked for help. Instead, I let him convince me that I was protecting you, that taking the house was keeping you safe. I know how that sounds now. I know how crazy and selfish and cruel it sounds, but I was so scared, and he made it seem like the only option. After you left, he took most of the money from the house sale anyway. He said it wasn't enough and disappeared. I haven't seen him since. Mom, I'm sick. Really sick. The doctors say I have maybe 6 months, maybe less. I know I don't have the right to ask you for anything after what I did, but I have a son. Tommy is 5 years old. He's David's, but David never wanted him. I don't have anyone else, Mom. No one who would love him the way he deserves to be loved. Could you meet him? You don't have to decide anything. Just meet him. I understand if you can't forgive me. I can't forgive myself. But if there's any part of you that still remembers loving me, please think about Tommy. He's innocent in all this. I'm at Mercy General Hospital, room 314. If you come, I'll understand. If you don't, I'll understand that too. I love you, Mom. I never stopped loving you, even when I was hurting you. Rachel. I read the letter 3 times before the words really sank in. Then I sat on my small couch with Charlie's head in my lap and wept for my daughter, for myself, for all the time we'd lost to fear and pride and terrible choices. For 3 days, I prayed. I walked Charlie through the park behind the church and asked God what he wanted me to do. I organized books in the library and searched my heart for forgiveness. I lay awake at night and wondered if I was strong enough to face Rachel again. On Sunday morning, Pastor Williams found me sitting alone in the sanctuary after service. "Tough decision?" he asked gently. "The toughest." "What does your heart tell you?" "My heart tells me to run. My faith tells me to go." He smiled. "Sounds like you already know what you're going to do." Rachel looked like a child in the hospital bed, small and frail under the white blankets. Her hair was gone and her skin was pale, but her eyes were still the same green eyes that had looked up at me when she took her first steps, when she graduated high school, when she called me crying about her first heartbreak. "Mom?" Her voice was barely a whisper. I sat down in the chair beside her bed and took her hand. It felt like paper, thin and fragile. "I'm here, baby." We talked for hours. She told me about the threats, about the fear that had driven every terrible decision. I told her about the shelter, about finding my faith again, about Charlie and the library, and learning that home isn't a place. It's a peace you carry with you. "I was so angry," she whispered, "at David, at myself, at God, and you were so happy, so content, and I hated that you could be okay when I was falling apart. I wanted you to hurt like I was hurting." "You were my daughter in pain," I said. "I should have seen it. I should have helped instead of just giving in. You gave me what you thought I needed. I took advantage of that. That's not your failure, Mom. That's mine." We cried together, mother and daughter, until the tears ran dry. "Will you meet Tommy?" she asked as visiting hours were ending. The next day, a nurse brought in a small boy with Rachel's eyes and hair that stuck up in all directions. He was shy, hiding behind a stuffed dinosaur, but when I smiled at him, he smiled back. "Are you my grandma?" he asked in a voice like music. "If you want me to be." He climbed into the chair beside me and snuggled close. "Mommy says you're going to take care of me when she goes to heaven." My heart broke and healed at the same time. "Would you like that?" He nodded solemnly. "Will you read me stories? Every night. Will you make pancakes? Every Saturday. Will you love me even when I'm bad?" I looked at Rachel, sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks, then back at this beautiful boy who would soon be mine to love and protect. "Especially when you're bad," I promised. Rachel passed away on a quiet Tuesday morning in November, with Tommy curled up beside her in the hospital bed and me holding her hand. Her last words were, "Thank you," and "Take care of each other." Today, Tommy is 8 years old. He's smart and funny and occasionally drives me absolutely crazy, just like his mother used to do. We live in a bigger apartment now, still above the church, with room for Charlie and Tommy's toys and the garden we planted together on the roof. Sometimes I think about the house I lost, the life I thought I wanted. But then Tommy runs in from school with a drawing he made for me, or Charlie nuzzles my hand when I'm feeling sad, or one of the women from prayer circle stops by with cookies and gossip, and I realize something profound. I thought I had lost everything, my home, my dog, my dignity. But God doesn't measure what we lose. He multiplies what we become when we trust Him. I was a mother betrayed, but now I'm a woman reborn. I have a grandson who thinks I hung the moon. I have a community that values me. I have purpose and peace and a faith deeper than I ever imagined possible. Most days, I thank God for taking me away from what I thought I wanted, because what He gave me instead was immeasurably better. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs hope. And tell me in the comments, what did you find after you thought you'd lost everything?